5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I wanna be like you. Claybourne Elder's on the pod today. Yeah, he came out with a new album called If the Stars Were Mine. And yeah, we get to talking about it. And we get to talk about him singing this song better than me. 'Cause he's Claybourne Elder. That was my ode to I Want to Dance with Somebody, a song that Claybourne Elder sings. Well, Whitney Houston, I think, sang it once. But Claybourne sings it on his new album, If the Stars Were Mine, which is out now. And we're talking to Claybourne today. And he was just a treat. Claybourne Elder, you may know him from his Broadway work because he originated Bonnie and Clyde. That was his Broadway debut. He was Buck, okay? And he also most recently was in the most recent revival of Company, Stephen Sondheim's Company, the gender-bent Company, where he played Andy, originally April, the flight attendant role, and was incredible. He was so funny, and he was just brilliant in that part. He's also on the Gilded Age. He's been on the Gilded Age since the beginning, and you might have loved him on that as well. And what we get to talking a lot about is his relationship with Sondheim, because not only was he, peripherally friends, well, I shouldn't say peripherally, he was friends with Sondheim and his husband throughout the last couple of years of his life. And then on top of that, his work just spans years and years of Stephen Sondheim. I mean, going back to he originated Roadshow. The original Roadshow that premiered at the Public, which I know went through Bounce and Wise Guys and a bunch of different versions, but the Roadshow version, which was Michael Cerveris and Alexander Gemignani, Claybourne played Hollis, which was a part that was originated before that in Bounce by Gavin Creel. And so we get to talking about Roadshow, which is awesome. I mean, so cool. Some Sondheim stories in there that you've never heard before, I'm sure. But also, he runs a nonprofit called City of Strangers, and if you haven't seen him talk about it, this is the perfect place because he tells us the whole story, and I will not spoil that for you. You have to listen to it. It is absolutely beautiful. And most recently, as I mentioned earlier, he has an album that is out now, and it is stunning. It's called If the Stars Were Mine, and it's kind of like this compilation of songs that mean a lot to him. And he's also performing these songs, at 54 Below and in Cabaret. And I got to see his 54 Below show, and it was magic. He's incredible. He just knows how to capture an audience and keep them in the palm of his hand and tell a story on stage, be funny, but also has this gorgeous, buttery voice. And I've been a fan of him for a while. I just saw him in the Wild Party too. You may have seen him in the Wild Party at City Center, which was a couple weeks ago. And this album is no different. It is lovely. And Claybourne was so generous with us and just the kindest person. I love him as a talent. We love him as a person. And I want you to go listen to his album. You can stream it now. You could go buy it. And it's called If the Stars Were Mine. We get to talking about particular songs he sings in there, including I Want to Dance with Somebody. He sings Hey Kid from If Then, which is a song that I did not know, but is a stunning song. He sings If the Stars Were Mine, which is a lullaby that he sings to his son, amongst many more. Finishing the Hat, Moments in the Woods. I mean, there's so many gems on this album, and new arrangements of these songs by Rodney Bush that are just beautiful. They're beautiful and told with such intention. There's so much story behind what he's doing because he's a musical theater boy after all. So I cannot suggest it enough. It's awesome. And we love Claybourne. We love Claybourne dearly, and you will as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. Here is Claybourne Elder's I Want to Be Like You. 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 Welcome to another episode of I Want to Be Like You with Elbi Cespedes, introducing Claybourne Elder. Like I said, this is such a treat, and
come on.
And I should tell this story on the podcast because I'm a big fan of putting it together. I've been listening to it for years, and you've been on it multiple times.
I have been a couple of times.
Yeah. And have you ever met him? He's based in Canada.
Never
right?
met him in person. No.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a Sondheim podcast where he goes through every Sondheim song, and he's been doing it for years and years, and I've been listening to it for years and years. And then I heard you on it. And I was like, gosh, I would love to have Claybourne on the podcast. And I didn't know how. And then I get an email the next day from your press rep, Dan, who we love, Dan.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I had chills.
Ooh.
I had chills.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah, because it wasn't
amazing.
even 12 hours. Like, it was like, yeah, freaky. Wow. It was so freaky. And of course, I've listened to your album, and it's a thrill. It's awesome. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to talking all things.
Thank you.
We start the podcast with the same question every time, and it is, who was your I Want to Be Like You when you were a kid?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. I think that you know who I wanted to be first was Joanna Gleason.
Of course.
Makes no sense.
Of course.
But I think that I learned how to act a song from watching her in Into the Woods when I was like 9.
Yeah.
And I think she was the first performer that I was like, that is a theater person who I love. You know, like I hadn't seen her in a TV show or a movie.
And you knew her name.
Only knew her from, like I was like, that is Joanna Gleason from Into the Woods, you know, when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I think that was like the first person I wanted to be like. And then soon after that, it was probably Gavin Creel. Which I remember, I remember when the cast album for Bounce came out.
Yes.
And I remember listening to it while I was in college in a rural town in Utah.
Yes.
Just like some kid listening to that album and listening to him sing the song Talent and not knowing that, like 5 years later, I would make the next cast album of that show singing Talent. And just thinking like, that guy is incredible. Oh my gosh, I would never be so lucky as to be that guy.
Yeah,
I wasn't, because no one is like Gavin Creel. I never was. But yeah, I think that was like the first person I like really idolized.
It's funny, my mentor and like theater godmother, we talk about her like it feels like every episode. Michelle Palk was in Bounce. Yeah,
I sang a song with her from Bounce at Sondheim's 80th birthday party.
You're joking? What? Wait, no, you have to talk about that.
Yeah, we sang The Best Thing That's Ever Happened to Me.
No way.
Yeah, which wasn't in Roadshow originally.
Okay, yes, I was gonna ask about this because I saw you guys. I was watching bootlegs of Roadshow.
Oh yeah.
In prep for this, and I was like, wait a minute, I did not know this song to be. I knew it from Bounce. But
yeah, it wasn't in the show. Steve had taken it out, and I would say maybe like a week before we started performances, they brought it in, and John Doyle, who directed it, and Steve both are like not sentimental people. They don't like a lot of like over sentimental things, and so they were like, they brought this love song in, and they were like, you can sing this love song. We're gonna put this love song. You can't look at each other. You're gonna be on opposite sides of the stage from each other singing it. This is not a super romantic moment, because it is a complicated moment that But so we sang this song like sitting on two sides of the stage. It's such a beautiful song. But anyway, I sang it with her at for his 80th birthday concert at City Center. They had all of the original cast members of his shows come sing. And I was sharing a dressing room with the guy who played Jack from Into the Woods. And I was almost lost. Who like sells insurance now. He left the business. Not insurance. I don't know what he does, but he's left the business. He's the coolest guy in the world. And was like, no, just that life wasn't for me. I loved doing it. And I realized that was not going to be my life when he left. But anyway, so I got to sing that song with her. She is amazing.
She is amazing.
She was one of my best friend's dressing roommates on Just in Time.
Oh, is that right?
Emily Burgle.
Emily? Oh, that's awesome. Wait, is there a video of this of you and Michelle doing it? Have you ever seen a video of it?
I don't think there is.
Because I'm like, I've seen so many videos from Sondheim's 80th, but that is one I would itch to see.
There were like, I should say, there were like 5 huge Sondheim celebration concerts.
Yes.
I was also the one at Lincoln Center. Lincoln Center? I don't remember, but this was the City Center one, the John Doyle directed, that was like,
I see,
original cast members. Angela Lansbury held my hand backstage while we watched Len Cariou sing Pretty Women.
Oh my God.
I was like 26 years old. I lost. I will never recover from it.
Crazy town. That is crazy. She's so like, the thing is like, she's so modest, and so like that I called her and I told her we were having you on, and she's like, oh yeah, I love him. He just had an album come out. But she did not mention that she sang the song with you.
I mean, she might not even remember, because I was just some kid.
I'm sure she does. But that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That's so cool. But yeah, anyway, why did I bring her? Oh, I brought her up because of Bounce, and that's how I got to know Bounce, because I was like, wait a minute, you originated this show, and blah blah blah. And like I said, she doesn't talk about it. So it wasn't until I read I was reading Look, I Made a Hat, and I was like, me and my brother, we were reading Look, I Made a Hat, and I was like, wait a minute. Michelle Pluck originated this Sondheim, final Sondheim production while he was alive, pretty much, of this show. And anyway, so that's how I know Bounce. That's how I know Roadshow. And also I'm just a Sondheim geek. So, but so you're from Springville, Utah.
Yeah.
Yes. I've never been.
No.
I've never heard of it.
There's no reason you should. I mean, I love it there. I love it. It's a great town, but nobody's going there for any reason.
I want to go to Moab. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
Like, I know
Yeah,
Moab.
that's great.
Is that far from you?
It's like 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
It's like a 4-hour drive. Yeah.
So I wouldn't pass Springville on the way to Moab.
Pass by. No.
But from, you grew up very Mormon.
Yeah.
Right. And I wonder, you talk publicly a lot about like your childhood and the things that you've experienced, but I was wondering how much you were exposed to theater. Like how old were you looking at these Joanna Gleason videos? And
yeah. I come from a family that is not a super theatery family. Like none of my siblings even were like in the school plays. My brother who's just older than me was, but we were about the same age, like none of the older ones or anything. And my mom, I do remember my mom taking us to see the Fantastics at the local community theater when I was very little, like 6 or 7. Like I hardly remember anything from it, except I remember the part where they take the cardboard moon out and put it up on the wall. And I was like, theater's amazing. That cardboard moon is a moon. How did they do that? Oh my God. Like I just remember thinking like theatricality was so cool.
Right.
And then there was like a little community theater in my town. And my mom was a teacher at my school. And when I was in, I think 7th grade, I had to wait for her after school, like sit around. And I would like sit around the office waiting for my mom to be done with her teacher's duties before we could go home. And I had like fallen in love with theater and had done some school plays. And I was like, I'm going to get out the phone book because that's how long ago it was. I got out the phone book and I was like, I'm just going to call these theaters around here and ask when they have auditions and how do you get into a play? And I called this one in my hometown and they were like, well, we're having auditions for this play on Golden Pond.
Yeah.
Like in a little while you can come audition for it. And I auditioned and got a part in it. And then I ended up working at that little community theater forever. Like I like designed the sounds and lights. I conducted the orchestra. I acted in the shows. I learned everything from there. And then Will Swenson's family had a theater that I also worked at in high school.
Oh, funny. In Utah?
In Utah.
Wow.
He's from Utah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
From really close to me. So I grew up also at his like family theater doing plays.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess I had wondered that because when did you know that this was something you'd wanted to do?
Yeah. It's funny. I being in Utah, we didn't come to New York. We didn't. And but my mom for Christmas one year got us season tickets to the like touring Broadway series. Awesome. Me and my brother, that was like our Christmas present.
That's awesome.
And actually one year she did the theater, the next year she did the ballet, the next year she did the opera. And we like rotated those 3 things for several years. It's like, that was what we did for Christmas. And so I got to see City of Angels, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Wow.
Phantom of the Opera, these shows on tour. And it was my first time seeing like really professional theater and professional actors do their job. And I just fell in love. And then I would go buy those cast albums. And that was the first way I was exposed to theater was those cast albums.
Wow.
And I remember once when I was in high school, I had all these like nerdy theater albums, like CDs in a like binder, in my car. And somebody broke into my car and stole it. And I had to like report to the police. And I was like, my musical theater albums have been stolen.
My prized possessions.
Seriously, they were like, what albums were they? And I was like, Songs for New World. I had to list like all the albums that I could remember that if they found them or something.
Like it's like a blue cover. It's
I know.
There's actually really good songs.
It's very hard to find.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, right.
There's like one at every Barnes and Noble. So my first real exposure to theater was watching the Tony Awards, which I would videotape and watch over and over and over again. Yeah. And listening to cast albums. And that's how I fell in love with the theater. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like we're from New York, we're from Brooklyn and Staten Island. So like, it's something that I've always been like semi-exposed to. I don't think I started going really to Broadway until I was like 16, but still like I always tell this story is like I was doing a show in Florida and they had a bunch of youth programs. Like this theater had a bunch of youth programs. And I remember being like, how do you guys have such a crazy wide sign up? Because how are you competing with the school programs? Because here in New York, our children's theater and whatnot are constantly, the kids are doing the children's theater program, their community theater, and their 2 school shows and whatever. And they go, we don't have a school theater program.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was just like
what?
gobsmacked. Yeah, I was just like, what? So they didn't have competition. This was the only theater, or access to theater in that town in Florida. So, it's just like, it's a bizarre concept to me, but it's interesting that you guys had school plays at all.
Yeah. We did like one school play a year.
Yeah. So you didn't do then the musical theater college audition route.
No, I didn't. Well, that's the other thing about growing up Mormon and growing up in Utah is when you're a Mormon, sort of the best, when I was a kid, the best you could do was go to BYU, which is the Mormon University.
Of course, yeah.
So it was like, that was the absolute best thing you could do. I wish somebody, when I was in high school, like I only did one, like national audition thing when I was in high school, and it was the National Foundation for the Advancement of the Arts. And I like placed, and like, I got a letter from the governor that was like, you won this thing, but nobody knew what it was. And everyone was like, I don't know, like, is that a big deal or not? And I got invited to like come out to some thing, but I didn't go because I couldn't afford it, and was like, nobody knows what this is.
Right.
And I was going to go to BYU. That was like what you did.
Right.
And so I went to first, but I also knew I was gay, and I was like, I don't know that I want to go to BYU.
Mm-hmm.
So my first year of college, I went and studied with the Utah Shakespearean Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I got a scholarship to go to Russia.
To go to Russia?
Acting. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's crazy.
And so me and my best friend were like, are we going to do this? Are we going to move to Russia in January of the year and like go to acting school? And we did, and it was horrible. No, it was very fun, but it was so cold. And we were like, where
were you in Russia?
Moscow.
Wow. So that's where she's not here at the moment, but she's actually downstairs. But my mom's that's where my mom's from.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
From Moscow?
We've never been. Yeah,
oh
from Moscow. Yeah. So I've never been or anything like that. But
it's funny, when I was there, it was a very different time. I wouldn't say it was liberal, but it was a lot more. Like, there was a gay bar in Moscow called Orange. Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't a gay bar every night, but it was like there, like, like it was socially, we did get yelled at for like smiling or laughing on the buses and stuff.
Sure.
You're really like not supposed to do that.
Oh, interesting.
But like, I don't know, it was less repressive than it became soon thereafter.
Right.
When I was
it's
there.
funny because my mom grew up there throughout USSR and moved here right as like that was falling and they were not communist anymore. So like all the stories I hear are only that, you know what I mean? And like, and then the things you see now kind of feel that way, at least from afar.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's still, Moscow, St. Petersburg, you know what I mean? Like big cities and whatnot. But what did you take away as an actor from having I imagine you guys did, the Stanislavski route and the whole nine.
Yeah, I mean the thing about acting school in Russia that I loved, is that when you're rehearsing a play, there would be like 6 of you would have one of the parts, so you would share the role with these other people because it's much more like, and that's how their theater companies are. Is they're like opera companies where it's like the show will run for years and people come in and out of it. But there are different people that play the role on different nights oftentimes.
Oh, wow.
And it takes this. So you were like watching your other actor friends do the role that you were going to do and find incredible things, and you steal it from that. You're supposed to, like,
right.
And then they're going to take things from you, and you're going to make this incredible performance that doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the play.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. Like this idea here that we like win a thing. We're like, it's mine, the role, it is me, is much more, I mean, like it's a way, but I love that feeling of like, it felt like being a part of a company that was like, no, we're here to make a play together. And like, my part isn't more important than your part. In fact, I might play your other part on a different day.
That's so
like,
cool.
And we're all just trying to make this thing great together. Yeah. And I love that kind of collaborative feeling. That's the thing that other than the acting training itself, which was great also, but like that was the thing that I loved the most. And I think that I take that into the way I work within a play now.
I think also a strange byproduct of that is like it's wonderful training for swings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like you're doing
how to. do stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the play Everybody by Brandon Jacob Jenkins?
No.
It was like off Broadway in like, I don't know, 2016 or 17. And essentially the point of it, it's a play on the classic ancient play Every Man. And essentially the point of it is like everybody is this person who's going through these experiences with friendship and with kinship and with love and whatever. But the catch is the characters are that kinship, friendship, love. And every night you roll a dice or like a bingo thing and
to see
who's going to play who.
That's fun.
And so when I did it in college and like I always said, I was like, that would be such a great like Broadway, cast some like Broadway people and roll that dice, man. And every night it is a different track. You either were going to make a quick change or you had like 30 minutes off.
Yeah.
Super cool.
I mean,
in that same vein.
As an actor, that's like the dream is to do one of those kinds of shows.
And also the terror.
Gosh. Yeah, the terror. Yeah, totally. Yeah. But speaking of Drood.
Yes, sorry. There's also that too. Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about BYU because you went to BYU subsequently, but you weren't there very long.
No, I was there for like a year and a half.
Right.
And I had sort of come out, and like when I was in Russia, there was this girl that I grew up with who happened to be there, and she was with the Mormon Church, and she was like, you never even gave Mormonism a try. She was like, you are from this old Mormon family, your whole family, like, but you just never even gave it a shot. You should at least give it a shot once in your life. And I was like, okay.
Right.
And so I did. I came back and like went to BYU because again, I had this feeling that was like, BYU is the best school you could go to. Like, yes. I sort of wish someone had shaken me at that point and been like, go try to audition for these other things. But I was like, no, this is what you do. And, so I went to BYU. It was kind of don't ask, don't tell with me there. Like people knew that I was gay, but like trying to just not make a big deal about it. I wasn't like dating women or anything very much. I did have like one girlfriend, but I wasn't like pretending, but it was my time of like, I wanted to take all the religion classes about Mormonism. I wanted to know about it and decide for myself if I was like, no, this is really not my thing. Right. And it was really, really not my thing.
But there's an open-mindedness that comes to that you're totally good. Don't worry.
Yeah, it is. It was really good. I'm really glad I did it. It was also very, very hard.
Right.
But yeah, I was there for a year and a half. And then my roommate, I had sort of like a guy I was dating, and he left me a love note on my car, and my roommate stole the love note, photocopied it, and turned it into the honor code office, which is where you get in trouble. And I got called into the honor code office, and they were like, you need to tell us everyone who is gay, who's at the school, and we want names. And I was like,
this was in Utah, not Russia.
This was in Utah. No, I know, right? Yeah, I mean, like, I went from Russia, which I felt was very open and relaxing.
You're at gay bars in Russia, exactly. And you come to Utah, and they're like, tell us everyone you know who's gay.
Yeah, and I was like, no, thank you. I'm just going to leave. I know how, like, bizarre. It is very USSR. It sounds very, calling you into the office. They also they were like, we've cross-referenced your license plate with a parking pass that was outside a gay bar. And I was like, this is... you're all crazy, right? Like this is a lot.
Wow.
And so I had been studying musical theater. I had done like all the musical theater things I could do there. And they, and I was, they kicked me out officially. They like let me just leave.
Right.
And then I had this woman who had been a mentor. Well, she became a mentor, but I had become acquainted with her, who was teaching at the University of Utah, who was starting a dramaturgy program. And she was like, we would like somebody to come and be the first graduate of this dramaturgy program. Do you want to come and do it? So my degree is in directing and dramaturgy. But,
so cool.
I'm a nerd.
But I didn't know what dramaturgy was. When I was in school, we didn't have a major for dramaturgy. So we had like a handful of people maybe who decided to create their own major, because you could do that at the school. And they created dramaturgy into their own major and then like devised it from like theater ed and a little bit of like design technology and stuff like that and merged it into,
I'm really glad I did. I mean, I learned a lot about it. My program was a lot about criticism and like reading and responding to material and helping playwrights to like giving feedback to playwrights to help them shape a story and how to tell a story. And I think that has been like, I joke that I'm an actor dramaturg. Like that's how I approach it, is that it's not just like I research what all the words mean. I do that too. But it's about like, how do you craft a story and what's my person within the play's story throughout the thing, you know, like what's the story of the show, but what's my story too, you know?
And also historical accuracy and a bunch of other, you know, research things that are crucial. And so many pieces, you don't realize how much they are in need of it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
So we always ask this question, and it was, what was the job? Well, I should start here. What was your first professional theater gig?
My first professional theater gig was playing Tony in West Side Story.
Whoa, where?
The Tuacahn Amphitheater.
Nice.
It's this like 2,000 seat outdoor theater.
Stunning, beautiful, beautiful.
Gorgeous. Speaking of Moab, it's kind of weird that it's in southern Utah.
Okay, gotcha.
And I was 20. I think I was 19 or 20.
Wow.
I just started BYU, and nobody knew who I was at BYU because I just started, and then I got that job, and everyone was like, "Who are you?" What? Because like the auditions were at BYU.
Yeah,
and it was my first like equity working with professionals job, and I played Tony in West Side Story one night, and then the next night I was Benny in Guys and Dolls, like who sang "Got the Horse Right Here." So every other night we were doing West Side Story.
Because you guys were in rep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That theater looks incredible.
You know, I've worked there twice. I haven't worked there in a long time, but it was such a fun, beautiful summer. It's such a great like place to spend a summer.
Yeah. And it's just a stunning, it feels like the Muni in that regard, you know?
It is. It's like a small Muni in the Red Rock Desert.
Yeah.
And there are like animals on the stage.
Crazy.
Like frogs and scorpions on the stage.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that was your first professional gig.
Yeah.
What was the gig? We always ask, what was the gig that got you your equity card?
Working at that same theater.
Oh, really?
Like 4 or 5 years later, doing, playing Freddie and My Fair Lady.
Wow.
And we did My Fair Lady, Cinderella, and 42nd Street. Oh my God.
Wow.
Tap dancing 42nd Street in the desert when it's like 110 degrees on the stage.
That's crazy.
God, I lost so much. We were all just like drenched in sweat.
That's crazy.
That was my last gig before I moved to New York.
Wow. Oh, okay. So you spent, that was while you were in college.
It was I just finished college. Yeah. I finished college, and then I went on a backpacking trip around Southeast Asia for like 5 or 6 months.
Whoa.
And then because I was like, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with my life.
Yes.
And then I came back and did that summer gig, and then moved to New York like right afterwards.
Wow. Super cool.
Yeah.
And what is the New York grind? What is the first thing you did? You know, boots hit the ground in New York.
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know anyone in New York really. I had like the people that I'd worked with at Tuacahn.
Right.
And that summer, and I found a sublet, but I didn't know anybody in the business. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have because I studied dramaturgy, I didn't have like a college showcase or anything.
Right, of course.
So I just started going to the Equity Building every day.
And hustling.
I was going to like 2 or 3 auditions a day.
Yeah.
For months.
Right.
There used to be a lot more because it was still like in-person auditions.
Yeah.
There were so many open calls that theaters had to have.
Right.
That I was always just going to open calls for things, and then working like 1,000 terrible jobs, which were fun, but terrible.
Yes. I was going to ask you, so then a year passes and you book this insane project.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your audition for Rojo?
Yeah. So going to all these chorus calls, you know, like, and I made I decided I was going to make friends with everyone around me in line. And that's how my mom actually was like, you need to do this. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got my first survival jobs, found my first apartments, got my auditions. And I had this little group of guys who all would like go to the Equity Building and sign each other up for things. Because you had to write it down on the piece of paper at the time. Right. And
you still do.
You still do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're equity.
Down?
But if you're non-union, you were physically, you got to show up there and write your name. Yeah.
Well, fine. Great.
It's efficient.
Like that you have to show up.
Yeah.
You're actually physically there. They don't have to worry about.
You don't have to do it at like any other building, but the Equity Building, they mandate it so that if you sign up your friend, that's all well and good. But if you sign up 40 different of your class of 2020.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
This was like 4 guys who would all like sign each other up. And so one day, was like 8 months in, and I booked some jobs out of town, but I decided to not take them and just stay in town. To be like, I want to just try to be in New York. And I had this audition come up, and that my friend had signed me up for, and I was like, I'm not going to go. I'm just not. I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I don't know where the public theater is. It seems complicated to get to. Like I don't know, you know. And he called me up, and he was like, "You loser, get out of bed right now and come to this audition, and we'll go to breakfast afterwards or something. Just come and do it." And I was like, okay. So I went to the public theater. There were like 200 guys who looked vaguely like me there, you know, and my age and stuff. And they were just shuffling us in to sing whatever, 8 bars, 12 bars, something short. And they had like stacks of resumes, like 10 at a time would go wait in line, and he would bring 10, like a stack of 10 resumes in at a time. And you'd like come in, and so I went in to sing. I sang Street Where You Live from My Fair Lady. He had picked up this headshot and resume, and he was reading the resume on the back of a headshot that was not me. And so I was like, and I stopped. I was like, he doesn't even care. You know, I was so tired of auditioning. I was like, he doesn't care. It's not even me. And I wasn't even going to tell him.
Right.
I was just going to leave. And I finished singing. I was like, hey, just so you know, you're looking at somebody else's resume. That's not me. Anyway, see ya. And he was like, well, wait, let me find yours. And he found it, and he looked at it. And so they called me back, and I was like, oh, he called me back because he had messed up like, oh, what a polite thing to do, whatever. And he called me back again. And then they were like, hey, bring in a Sondheim song. And I had been in Into the Woods. And so I sang Jack's song from Into the Woods. Sky, yeah. And like kept calling me back. And then Stephen Sondheim was in the room one day, and I was like, oh shit, you guys are serious about this, you know? And, but I didn't even meet Steve that day. I just sang for him, and I left. And then I was at Sacramento Music Circus in the ensemble of My Fair Lady, and Kate Baldwin was playing Eliza. And whoa. I got the call. They called me, and they're like, hey, we don't have your agent's phone number. We just have your phone number. And we just wanted you to know you got the job in this show. And I was like, oh, I don't have an agent. What's that? And he was like, what? and then I remember going to Kate Baldwin and being like, hey, I just booked this big job. And she was like, what are you talking about? You're doing that. You're like, and she sat me down, and I was like, I'm terrified. And she gave me the talk of a lifetime that I've told her this several times. And she ended up playing my older sister on the Gilded Age last year, which is totally crazy. Yeah. But she like sat me down, and she was like, you're going to be okay. You're great. You're fantastic at this. You know what you're doing. You just need to do what you're doing. Like, anyway, this huge changed things for me because I was so terrified. And I was certain that I had gotten the understudy and that I had been confused until the first day of rehearsal. Like, I walked into rehearsal for the first day of Roadshow, and I was like, no, it is. They mean me. They mean I'm playing the role. God. They actually mean this.
That's crazy.
And so that was my first job.
I mean, that's such a crazy, what a beautiful story. That's like, I think it just tells you everything you need to know when you think that you're not in the right place at the right time, or you think that like, I need this and I need that. And if I don't have this color, if I don't have 7 headshots that I rotate, or, whatever. And those things just don't always matter. No. It's like,
John Doyle just released a book on directing.
Yes.
That is incredible if you haven't read it. It's a book about directing technically, but it's about making theater. It is beautiful. But he talks about in that book how you need to have like a career angel. It's like somebody who sees you and takes a chance on you. And we all need to have like a career angel that comes in, and he was mine, like he's the one who gave me, he's really the one that fought for me to be in the show. And I think that young people I talk to a lot who I'm like, you're not auditioning for a show. You're auditioning and you're meeting people to try to find that career angel who's going to take a chance on you. Right. And it's oftentimes not the thing you're auditioning for. It's a casting director will see you and be like, they're not right for this, but they're right for something else. Or a director who's like, I want to work with that person at some point. They're not right for this thing. Right. Those are the relationships you're trying to
foster.
Yeah.
Well, in this vein, I want to ask you what your relationship was with Sondheim at the time. You mentioned Into the Woods as a kid, but what was your knowledge? What did you know about Sondheim going into this?
I had been really obsessed with Sondheim.
You were?
Yeah. Before while I was in college and things. So I knew the canon pretty
Oh, you
pretty
did?
well.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of it.
Yeah.
And loved it, and just was like, that's the kind of work I want to be doing for
Right.
sure. You know,
Right.
I had this crazy experience while I was in college, which we can talk about later, and I can tell the whole story of
Yeah.
seeing Sweeney Todd on
Oh, yeah.
Broadway.
Talk
Have
about
I
it.
told you?
No, I don't.
Okay, this is a long story.
Do it.
But can I tell you?
Yes,
it now?
absolutely. Yes, please.
It's a story I've told a bunch of times, and you might have heard it somewhere else before.
Okay.
But while I was in college, right after I'd gotten kicked out of BYU,
Yeah.
I had no money, but I was like, I'm going to go to New York and see Broadway shows because I want to, because it make me feel better. Scraped up money to came and started seeing Broadway shows standing room only. And this guy walked up to me after Putnam County Spelling Bee, because it was kind of in the round. And he said, hey, are you from out of town? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, hey, I could see you up in the standing room only seats.
Yes, I do know the story.
Yeah. And you look like you were having more fun than the people in the expensive seats. Here's $200 cash. You have to go buy yourself a ticket to Sweeney Todd tomorrow. It'll change your life. And I was so suspicious because I was like, New York is where the bad people are. What do you want from me? You know, but nothing. He didn't even give me, like, we didn't exchange names, nothing. And I asked if I could take a picture with him because it was kind of the only thing I could think of to do. So we took this picture together.
Right.
And he walked off. And I could have spent that $200 on a lot of things at that point in my life. But I went to buy a ticket. I went to see Sweeney Todd, and I was like, that is the kind of theater I want to do. You know?
Yeah.
It was John Doyle's production.
Right.
It was this weird, crazy, like actors playing their own music. And
This is the Patty one.
Yeah,
right?
the Patty one.
Right.
Pouring buckets of blood on stage. Very polarizing. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. I just was like, that is exactly the kind of theater I want to make. I have to come to New York.
And this is Michael too. Michael Service. Right.
Who then
Went
cut
in.
to, I get cast in Roadshow. The guy who gave me the money didn't even know I was an actor or anything.
Right.
He just knew that I liked theater.
You were enthusiastic.
Yeah. The next time I would be playing, like, I played across from Michael Service, who played Sweeney Todd, working with John Doyle, working with Stephen Sondheim. Actually, there were several people that had been in that production that were in Roadshow with me. And at the time I was like, if that guy only knew that the next time those people would be working together, I'd be one of the stars of the show.
Right.
Is totally insane. So then cut to today. I was in Company on Broadway a few years ago.
Right.
And I was out of the show with COVID. And when I came back into the show, I decided I was going to give away 2 tickets to the show. And because of that guy. And so I posted the picture that I taken with him, and I wrote the story out, and I said, if you can't afford a ticket to a Broadway show right now, write your name down here, and I'm going to give away 2 tickets to some random person. And 2 insane things happened. One, people started asking if they could send me more money to give more people tickets, and more and more and more and more people have done it. And so then over the course, Patti LuPone's lawyer stepped in and helped me turn it into a nonprofit. It's an official registered nonprofit. It's called City of Strangers. Yeah. After the song. And
another 100 people. Yeah.
And we've given away over 3,500 tickets to Broadway shows now. And they're not free. They're paid for by somebody who wants to do something nice.
Right. So they're still recycling. It's, you know,
Yeah. And it's now we partner with community organizations to give away the tickets to, like, unhoused youth who end up on the streets of New York because they're gay and they get kicked out of their houses, to public school teachers who can't afford to go see a Broadway show, though they live or work within 2 blocks of it, you know?
Yeah.
All these people. We also give away tickets on our Instagram to everyone. If you want to find us on Instagram, you can check it out. Or if you want to find us on cityofstrangers.org, you can buy a ticket for someone if you'd like to.
Incredible.
The other thing that happened was my friend Doug Sills, who's on the Gilded Age with me, said, hey, I just saw that picture you posted, and that story is so beautiful. I was looking at that picture, and I know that guy. Do you want to talk to him? And so I got to reconnect with this total stranger who walked up to me outside a theater over 15 years before. And now we're friends. He's come to see me in several shows.
He's a theater goer.
He's a theater goer.
Does he work in the industry?
No. He works in press. He was in marketing and stuff for big TV shows and things.
How funny. That's and you guys took a picture that day? Is that why you have that picture?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy that I did it, and crazy that I kept it, because it was like printed like photo.
Right. Oh,
so anyway, that's the crazy story. But just talking about my connection with Sondheim and that, and that show, seeing Sweeney Todd, that production of Sweeney Todd, was really why I moved to New York, because I was like, that is what I want to do.
That's incredible.
So anyway, that's the long story of what that is.
Super special. Yeah. I want to ask you about being in Roadshow and what, I guess it's so funny because that show, Michelle says this thing actually about Bounce, right? And you were actually in Allegro as well at Classic Stage Company. And Michelle says, Sondheim tells the story that with Allegro, he was like an assistant on Allegro, and he was watching these pioneers, these like legends, right, of the theater, Rodgers and Hammerstein, and he's watching everybody kind of create a different show. And Michelle said that is kind of what she remembers feeling on Bounce as well. And actually, I think Sondheim mentions that in the book, that he had his vision of the show, and Hal had his vision of the show, and John had his vision. So, but what it amounted to years later, this is like 5 years later, something like, was Roadshow. Yeah. What was your feeling going into it? Did you feel like it was a cohesive production?
The thing that was exciting about working on it, and is often exciting about revivals, and John Doyle calls it revivifying. I think is what he calls them. Revivals, or revivifying is, I think, his verb. He strongly believes that if you're going to do a show that's been done before, you need to have something else to say about it. Like his production of Sweeney Todd, that was a very different, Company too. His production of Company, very,
or Assassins, or
like very different takes. It's not just putting up the musical again,
right?
And so when we did Roadshow, it was like we weren't creating a new piece of theater. We were like taking an existing thing that maybe didn't work very well and mining it for something else. And so it didn't feel like making a new musical. And also, John Doyle has such a strong aesthetic that Sondheim and Weidman really trusted. And they were like, you do whatever you want to do to this musical.
Yeah.
And he did. And he chopped it up and put it back together. And whether it worked or not ever is a good question.
Sure.
But when we were making it, it was like, they weren't writing new scenes. They were writing new lines and like changing songs and adding some songs. But mostly it was like, what do we have that already exists? And how do we make sense of what we already have? Oh,
I did not realize that. Yeah. Well, because Michelle's character entirely got cut.
Yeah.
And like it felt like it was another rework, like from Wise Guys, like.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a mixture of both, it seems.
Yeah. Wow. So that's what it felt. It didn't feel like we weren't trying a lot of things and cutting them. Not a lot. We were some things.
Right.
But they had pretty much decided what the story was going to be.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
And I think that they were all a little more aligned than with Hal. Like, I think that Hal had a different opinion. Like Bounce was like this big, huge Broadway musical with dancing and tons of sets and things.
Right.
And ours was like one set, some chairs, one costume for everybody. It was just kind of like, here's the story.
Right. That's super interesting.
Yeah,
that's super interesting. I was wondering if you could tell the story of one of the first previews, and you were, because I think this is such a hysterical story.
Oh my gosh, of like the first preview.
It wasn't the first preview.
It was the first preview. Are you talking about when my
yes.
line? Oh my gosh, I almost had forgotten about it. I haven't told that story in a long time. So my first line was, "Remember me? I'm the one that you fucked."
Yeah,
and my Mormon parents came to see the show, came to see my first preview. I was so nervous. Nervous and excited are very similar things. They're so close they could almost touch. And they're sort of the same. And I was very excited, and I was also terrified. And, like making my New York debut. And among all of these people that I looked up to so much, and in a Sondheim show and all this stuff that I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. And my parents were there, and I was very nervous. And the show starts, and it was the line at the very beginning of the show, and I like turn around in his chair, and it's this big moment, and I said, "Remember me? I'm the one that you first." Like I didn't get the word out. I just made like noises because I was also so nervous to swear in front of my parents.
Yeah,
my
of
super
course.
Mormon parents.
Yeah.
And so I said, and Steve came up to me afterwards and laughed and just said, "Hey, don't ever do that again." I was like, I won't, I promise, I promise.
It's crazy. That's such a crazy story. That's wild.
So
Did your parents realize what you were meant to say?
Yes.
They did.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
had told them. I had
Okay.
told them already.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna kiss a boy on stage, Mom. I kissed Michael's cheek or something.
Sure.
I was Alex Gimignani's first stage kiss.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Uh-huh.
crazy.
I know, right? Yeah.
That's so
He's always
bizarre.
like, "You're my first stage kiss," and I was like, "Really?"
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's interesting. That's so funny. I'm like, how could you have gone this many years working in theater and not doing shows? Yeah, that's funny. So I think that's just fascinating, and we'll talk more about the Sondheim through line that exists throughout your career, which is just so cool. But before we do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about Bonnie and Clyde, because what I find interesting about Bonnie and Clyde is you were involved with it through many iterations of it.
Yeah.
The La Jolla version and the Oslo version, which were both out of town tryouts, and then it came to Broadway, and I can't. It's like a notorious. It's deemed like a notorious flop.
Yeah.
And bizarre, so because everyone knows it.
Everyone knows it.
The afterlife is insane, and I guess I wonder your experience with that, playing Buck, and building this huge thing. It just feels like the showbiz story of the. It's like you build this huge thing only to come to its zenith, and then hit such a strange peak.
The stories I could tell you. I'll give you a truncated version of the whole Bonnie and Clyde experience. But I auditioned for Bonnie and Clyde to play Ted, the boyfriend policeman.
Yeah.
And I went in and I left the audition room. And when I read the script, I was like, oh, I should be Buck. I shouldn't be Ted. And I left the room and I was packing up to leave, and the casting director came out and was like, hey, actually, could you come in and read for this other role? We've already cast it, but the person who's doing it can't do this week-long workshop that we're doing. Do you want to come and audition just to be in the workshop? You couldn't be in the production, but you could be in the workshop. And I was like, right, sure. So I went in, so they gave me the sides, and I went in and I just remember them laughing and laughing and laughing at what I was doing. And because I thought Buck was hilarious. And so they called me and they're like, we're going to have you do the workshop. And then they fired the other guy and gave me the job. Now he has gone on to have an amazing career. His life is fine. We actually joke about it with each other. That's funny. I went in and that was my audition, was that week-long workshop. And I went in and worked my butt off, and they were like, you're the person who should play this role. Wow. So I gave me the role. Went of town. Stark Sands was playing Clyde at the time. We did it at La Jolla and he played Clyde. But then Laura Osnes and Melissa Vanderscafe and me stayed with the four leads. After that were the same. Jeremy Jordan came in to do the production in Florida. We came to New York. Jeremy had done Newsies in between, out of town. Right. And they wanted him to do Newsies. And we kind of closed down because we opened in November, December, which is the worst time to open a show for and we're not a Christmas show. We're a show about robbers. Yeah. And, and we had this cult following of people that loved us, but the show was just not finding its audience. Right. And we didn't have strong producers. We didn't have strong producers with the money to keep the show open until the audience started coming, which is a big thing in the you need a few months sometimes to get a fall of fans of the show. There was no cast album of the show out, so people couldn't hear the music and decide if they liked it. Right. And so the show closed very early. We were all so sad because we'd been working for years on it. It was 3 years of my life. I had spent Thanksgiving and Christmas with Laura Osnes and Melissa Vanderscafe for 3 years. Right. And Jeremy for 2, and because we always were doing the show in the fall. So I was so sad. My agents didn't want me to do the show because they were like, it's you have this Sondheim thing, people really respect you as an actor. I'd done One Arm, I'd done this plays and things, and they're like, don't do this play that people don't like. But I was like, no, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And in fact, I don't know that this is a told story, but they got us together the last week and we're like, we don't have the money to make a cast album, so we're not going to make a cast album unless the four of you, the four leads, if we would pay for it. So we paid for that cast album. Whoa. We donated them the rest of the money so that it could be a cast album because they weren't even going to make it.
And that is
me and Jeremy and Laura and Melissa.
That's crazy.
So I still am an investor on the album. Though it's crazy that like we don't make any money.
Well, I was gonna ask
we
that
don't get
next.
a single dime.
Oh my goodness!
And I love when I
gracious.
teach master classes and people are like, "I loved you in Bonnie and Clyde." I'm like, "You did not see it."
No, right?
Because you know,
very few people did.
But now everybody watches the bootleg. All these regional theaters do it.
It was in the West End, I believe.
It was the West End. Yeah. It's had this crazy life.
Yeah,
you know.
And it might have not had you guys not helped fund that cast album.
Yeah. And it's the first. I remember they did the show in Korea a couple of years after we had done it, and it was the first time in my life where like like me and Melissa especially, like we kind of wrote some of the jokes we did. We like, and I remember watching clips of the production from Korea and watching a guy do a bit that I had done, that I had made up in Korean, but like doing this joke. And I was like, this is the trippiest thing. Cause like the show is closed. Like we didn't, like it wasn't the success for all of us that we hoped it would be. And there's somebody on the other side of the world pretending to be me doing the show. It still is existing. Like it's still going on.
Yeah.
It's
bizarre how that has such an afterlife, how that carries over.
Yeah.
You never know the things that'll carry over. And also we should add to this, like the real cherry on top was that this is your Broadway debut.
It was my Broadway debut.
What in the world? That adds that much more to stakes, and you got like this like crazy life lesson out of
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I always say I'm like my brain in college and whatever was like, you book a Broadway show, and then you book the next Broadway show, and then you book the next Broadway show.
Yeah.
It's a common misconception.
Yeah.
But it's strange to. It feels a little bit like a slap in the face. You know what I mean? And not to like, because it wasn't in the grand scheme of things. It's like this beautiful. What wound up happening now with the show and your association. I'm sure you're thrilled that you were part of it. You know what I mean? On many different fronts. Totally. For many different reasons, I should say. But yeah, what was the first thing you did after Bonnie and Clyde closed?
I actually went right into a TV show. I was on
the
Carrie Diaries.
Yeah,
wow. I had gotten the Carrie Diaries. So I was going to have to take off time from the show to do the Carrie Diaries, but I didn't end up having to do that because the show closed. So It was okay.
Wow.
But this is something I teach. I love teaching. I love talking to young people who are thinking about doing this because it reminds me who I was when I started and all these things. But the thing I teach about really the most, the thing that I talk about the most is this like the difference between the mental health part of this, which is like your buoyancy, your ability to be like, oh, I've had something bad happened, right? But I'm going to still do this. I want a life in this thing, Yeah. And I know so many incredibly talented young people, and look, this is their journey and it's totally great because that's what they wanted to do. But I know so many people who are like, come to New York. They get cast as Elphaba on the road or something. And then they do that. And then they come back and they're like, I made it. I'm ready. Yeah. And they don't get a job for 5 years. Right. Which is because they're not fantastically talented. They're incredibly talented people. But you're like, it's the cross section of talent and luck. And if you don't walk in the right rooms, we're all talented. If you're in New York and you're doing this for a given amount of time and you have any success, there are tons of talented people. We're all just different. And you're just looking for the right rooms to be in to get the jobs. And that might be, I wasn't in another Broadway show after Bonnie and Clyde for many years. Right. Like it was a long time. Right. Yeah. Before I did, lots of other close calls and lots of other misses and lots of other shows that I was in that were going to come to Broadway and didn't come into Broadway, Yeah. But I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And so I kept doing it, even if it meant that I wasn't like, and now I'm going into my next Broadway show and and now I should say that. And some people do. Yeah. Some people go like Broadway show to Broadway show to Broadway show for a long time. Right. But there always, no matter who you are, is always going to be a time in which you're not. Yeah. Yeah. And, and I do think that there's something, statistically speaking, to the idea that if you're, for the most part, at least, if you're here and you're, pounding the pavement, something will happen, like it's not for nothing.
There's always something, and it could be. You never know what it could be. You know what I mean? You really never know what it could be. But I'm sure that there are people who know you from Bonnie and Clyde, or certain ways that ties in to something else, right? But I do think that the numbers do matter, and like not giving up and like giving it your all and still going in full force and like authentically. I think that there's something to that.
There is. And like. I know a lot of really wonderful actors who like in their 40s suddenly became famous, and like because that's the time it happened for them.
Yeah.
And they worked for 15 years before that.
Right.
Doing lots of great things.
Right.
Maybe nobody had heard of their name.
Right.
But they were doing the same great work they'd always done. Mm-hmm. But then somebody noticed it, and somebody, like there's a lot of truth in that in TV and film world of like people who hit an age where suddenly they're like working all the time, and so you just have to decide like what sort of life do you want. And like I say, it is totally valid to be like, what I want is to come be in one Broadway show and then I want to leave and I want to go be an accountant, like the guy from Into the Woods. Yeah. Like, great, you chose, amazing, you got your life, you figured out what you wanted and you went for it. I think that's amazing. Like there's this guilt complex about giving up, or like this feeling that like, even if you want to take a couple of years off, it's not going anywhere. Right. We're all going to still be here doing this. Yeah. If you need to go home and take care of a sick parent, or you want to take a couple of mental health years off, or whatever you want to do, it like you are creating your own journey, and it is totally okay to do it however you're going to do it. And you just can't let, the expectation of what it should be get in the way of what it could be. Yeah. Yeah. I think the most beautiful example of this, and that's like feels timely right now as well, is June Squibb, who just like came to Broadway, who, first of all, originated Gypsy, like in the original cast of Gypsy. It isn't until the last like 5 to 10 years that we know June Squibb's name, which is crazy because she's 96 and she just led Broadway show. Like, it's unbelievable. And she was brilliant. Yeah. She was brilliant, doing 8 shows a week in the cold, in this cold, crazy winter that we had. Like, it's unbelievable. And then the second person I think of all the time is like Bryan Cranston. Like, his book changed so much for me, where I was like, he was working and working and working and working and did 7 years on Malcolm in the Middle, got an Emmy nominated, and he still wasn't a household name until Breaking Bad, which was like subsequent. It's bizarre how these things work. And then comes and, leads Broadway shows and West End shows and so it's like timing is everything. It's like, and also those, the big thing too is like those like awards are very dangerous. I know a lot of people who like winning a Tony Award is a very complicated thing. Right. I mean, obviously it's wonderful and amazing and the pinnacle and all these things that are wonderful. Right. It also really like, I have lots of friends who are like, it limits you so much, because what are you going to do? Go from winning a Tony Award to like go working at a regional theater doing a shot? Like you can't. You have to like play the like status game for the ladder game, Yeah. And it does. And I see why. Like, obviously we should all be hoping for it and we should be so lucky. But just to say like, even that thing that might be the thing you want the most, which is winning a Tony Award, might not be the thing. It's still, you never like arrive. You're never like, now I've made it and now everything will be easy. Yeah. And I think things are a little less lateral than we make them seem. Yeah. And maybe thinking about it like in a longitude level is worth it as well, because, like we've been very lucky to chat with people like Jerry Sachs and someone like him, like he has his 4 Tonys. Right now, he's not focused on a Tony. Yeah. He's focused on like the work. That's what he cares about. What he wants to do. Yeah, exactly. Because that's all. Yeah, because the Tonys, and with or without the Tonys, like he wants to do the work. He's always wanted to do the work. We all just want to do the work. Yeah. So in whatever capacity, it doesn't necessarily matter. And if you want to go do that thing elsewhere, then do that thing. It's okay to do that thing, and it's also okay to not do that thing and build whatever that is, But I think that it's a social stigma thing, more than anything else. And also like the story you're telling about my career. So I'm like, we're talking about it in one way, which is like up. We're talking about the things I do next and the things you talk about it. In between these, there were long years of there were things. What were you doing in June of 2015? Right. Like there were lots of years in which even like after I finished the Carrie Diaries, I finished that season of the Carrie Diaries and they were like, this is the end of the show. And I was like, I think after that, I went through a period where I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I was doing workshops of like every new musical, but no, I wasn't getting any like big jobs, you know, there was a stretch there. There always is gonna be, and I'm gonna have another one. I don't know when. There'll be lots of stretches in which I'm not doing anything, you know?
And then but then through that, somehow it seems that these little things kind of like bubble up and creep up. Like, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think you could have predicted or imagined this journey that you're currently on, doing your solo show and your album.
Nope.
I don't think that was part of the plan when you were doing Bonnie and Clyde.
Nope. But I will say it's that thing where like, if you're sitting around, you need to go make your own work.
Yeah.
And even when you're not sitting around, I mean, like I started doing my solo show right after company closed because people were like, people will book you because you're just off of this big Broadway show. All these places will book you just off of that.
Right.
You should do it. I had done a solo cabaret show before and I had a very bad experience. Like, not a bad experience. I booked it around and I did it, but I just didn't like the like, and now I'm going to sort of talk about something and now I'm going to sing another song. And I just thought that I didn't love doing it. And so when I started doing this show, I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down. My mom's a writer. She's a personal essayist. And I talked to her and she was like, all right, what are the 3 things you're most scared to talk about in front of people? And I was like, Mom, she's like, yeah, what are those things that make you uncomfortable? Those are the things you should start. And I was like, okay. And I wrote something before I added any songs to it. It's like, there will be lots of songs to sing.
Right.
But I was like, what do I want to say? And so I did that. And then suddenly, because it's partly a stand-up comedy show, it's partly my TED Talk, it's partly a cabaret, theaters were booking it because it's a piece of theater. Comedy clubs are booking it because it's a comedy thing. Cabarets are booking it because it's a comedy show. This thing that I was like, I guess I'm going to do this a little bit. I've done it for 3 years now.
Incredible.
Toured all over the place.
That's so cool.
Just finished the album because I was like, I'm going to do the thing that is authentically me. And there were times in which I did it where people were like, there's too much talking. And I was like, there is. And that's how I'm going to do it. In fact, my manager was like, I think there's too much talking. And I was like, I think there's just enough. And because I was like, this is what this is going to be for me. This is what I want to do. And this is what feels like the most authentic piece of performance that I want to do, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask you in regards to crafting the album and the show in general is like, well, I should mention, you know, your album is called If the Stars Were Mine and it's out now on all streaming platforms. But on top of it, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the last Broadway show you did, which was Company. I saw it and it was awesome.
Thank you.
It was awesome and beautiful. And your performance in it especially was just like excellent. And I mean that. It was, And my girlfriend has actually played that part twice.
April. Oh yeah. That's funny. That is, yeah. Because it's
but yeah, no, it was, I loved that production. And that was one of those like solo dates. I want to see some theater. And I went into I actually went in and bought rush tickets 2 hours before and I got a solo box seat, which is crazy.
That's fun.
It was a random Wednesday night, right? So it was just like timing. And it must have been in January too. So it was like one of those. Yeah. And I was just sitting there being like, oh my God. It was everything. Anyway, but
I think I would have, it's not oftentimes that you're in a show that you're like, I would have been a huge fan of this show. Like I would have seen it multiple times.
Yeah.
I loved
it.
And
it was, I mean, from the very beginning, you guys are coming down the aisles singing Bobby and I was like strapped in. And I had this beautiful seat to see everyone give Patty that standing O. And it was electrifying, really electrifying. And that show is electrifying.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is since then, right, is you have a kid and you're doing a lot of more personal life stuff and also on the Gilded Age. And so it all feels like kind of serendipitous, right? That with this album and what I'm getting at here is the work that came into crafting the album and crafting the show, using those 3 things as a pillar. Where did you go from there?
So
that was a long-winded way of getting there.
Great. Okay, it's great. We're good. Okay, so I'm in Company closed. When I started, I got cast in Gilded Age and cast in Company. We were in the first week of previews of Company. We'd already had table reads for Gilded Age. We were starting to film the pilot like a week later when COVID shut everything down.
Crazy.
My son was 2 at the time.
Wow.
And so he was still at home. I was hanging out with him all day, doing the show at night, you know. Cut to finally everything came around years later. And when I finished Company, I had finished, we shot the first season of Gilded Age during COVID. And then I did Company, and we were just getting ready to film the second season. And I finished with Company. And by that time, my son was 5 or 6. And I went home and I was like, you're a different kid than when I started this run of it, because I'd missed his life for like 8 months. Because he was in school all day, and then I would go, and now I know lots of Broadway parents who make it work.
Right.
And who like it. I was like, I want a break because I want to be around for his childhood, because it's so short. And I think I really realized at that point, I was like, how fast it goes and how crazy it is.
Fragile. It's like fragile.
Yeah. And yes. And my relationship with him is just very tight. Like, we're very good friends, my son and I. But like, I just couldn't. Oh my gosh. There was one night that I will always remember, that I had taken off the show to hang out with him, and they called me. And because of COVID craziness, like, we were always having understudy problems, because you just couldn't have enough understudies for all the COVID cases that were happening. Yeah. I was making dinner with my son, and they called me, and they're like, we have to cancel the show unless you come and do it right now. And I was like in the kitchen making pasta with my son.
Had you taken off?
Yeah, I took the night off to be with him. And I was like, well, let me text my babysitter who lived nearby. And and the babysitter was available. And I was like, okay. And my son was crushed. But I was like, otherwise they're going to cancel the show. Like, this is just, it wasn't like I was missing his recital. This was just a night at home with him. I was like, they can't cancel the Broadway show because I'm not there. Right. So I went and did it. And that experience will stick with me for the rest of my life. He was so sad about it. Like, he was 4 or 5. He didn't understand what was happening. Right. And so I was like, I'm going to take a break. Now, that said, like, look, if a huge Broadway show that I really wanted to do had called me, I would have done it. But that said, I was like, I'm not going to leave town. I'm going to take projects really, that one offer came in to replace somebody in a Broadway show. And that was a big,
decision.
Nope, I'm not going to do it. Like, again, because it wasn't something I was dying to do. And I was making enough money doing concerts and stuff that I was like, this is what I'm going to focus on right now. Now, would I have been richer and more famous if I had done that Broadway show? Sure. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe. But I just knew that was really important to me, and I don't regret it at all. And it was like, so I really stayed home for a couple of years there to be with him. And I also was doing Gilded Age. And I was like, I'll just shoot the Gilded Age. We did 2 more seasons of the Gilded Age. Yeah. And I was touring this show and doing a lot of symphony gigs and things. And that was really filling me up. And I was I've loved.
You were creatively fulfilled.
Yeah. Doing my solo show is my favorite thing I've ever done. Yeah. And so that was really, so anyway, that's why I started doing the solo show, why it continued on, partially because this comedian, Lisa Lampanelli, who I love, saw some of my videos online, and she reached out to me, and she was like, hey, I want to work with you. And I had heard of her. I knew who she was. And I was like, okay, sure. I was like, again, what? What do you want? Right. But she was like, send me a video of your show and we'll meet to talk about it. And I sent her the video, and I was like, she's not going to watch this. She's a very famous comedian. She's the first woman to ever have a comedy special on HBO. Wow. And I met with her, and she came with 12 handwritten pages of notes on my show. Not writing, but suggestions about, she was like, there's something funnier here. You need to move this section here. You need to keep writing here. Right. 12 pages of stuff. And she was like, you're really good. You're really funny and you're really good. And I want to help you do this. She's like, I'm super rich. I don't want to be a comedian anymore. What I want to do is help young comics. And so she sat down with me and really helped me learn how to craft an evening. Right. In that style of way, And so that's sort of why it feels like a piece of theater, I think, to some people and stuff. And there's a lot in the writing of calling back to other things in the show and things, and she helped me a lot with that.
And I mean, what an honor too, that someone is looking at the work that you created and saying, this is worthy of noting. This is worthy of helping you with, right? But two, I want to ask you is How did you decide on what songs to pick? Because I want to. Well, the big one that I loved from the very top of is "I Want to Dance with Somebody," because I just thought that take on it was I'm an MC and I work Sweet 16s and communions, and I worked a first birthday party yesterday, and I hear "I Want to Dance with Somebody" all the time. Yeah, every weekend.
It's a great song.
I don't know the lyrics necessarily. I know, clock strikes upon the hour. I know what the words are, but I'm not really thinking about what they mean. Yeah. I know the vibe.
Yeah.
And then I listened to your version of it and watched you do it online, and I was like, oh, I don't know this song at all.
Great, good.
Yeah.
Because, that's the other thing is like, I think that from that experience of working with John Doyle and that kind of revivifying thing,
right?
I was like, if I'm going to sing these songs, I want to do something different with them. I want to make you hear them in a different way.
For sure.
And for most of them, like Finishing the Hat pretty much left it as it was. Although I was like, I want to do it with like a string quartet. So I had it arranged for mostly strings. But like...
We should shout out your arranger too.
Brian Perry and Rodney Bush are my two arrangers. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
They're geniuses.
Yeah.
But like Rodney Bush... So I Want to Dance with Somebody. I've been singing that version for years because I remember... being a little kid and hearing that song and knowing that I was a little gay kid.
Right.
And being like, I don't know that that's ever going to happen to me.
Right.
So there was always this kind of longing and sadness about that song to me that was like, I don't know that I'm ever going to be dancing with somebody who loves me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like what it meant to me. And so when the first time I sang it in my first solo show, maybe. But like, a non-fully realized version of it. I just was like, hey, I want the song to be sad. And I think it sounds like this, when I went to my arranger to do it. And then
I've done all right up till now. It's the light of day that's shown me how. But when the night falls, my loneliness calls. Oh, I want to dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I want to dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me.
But also like Street Where You Live, which I think is kind of creepy. Like, I think that's sort of a weird stalkery thing to do, to hang out on the street where she lives. And so I went to Rodney Bush and I was like, how can we make this song sound a little creepy? Because I think it's creepy.
Right.
So yeah, that's like, I wanted the songs to be heard in different ways. And I think, the liner notes of the album are very important to me because the liner notes like really explain why these songs. Because all of these songs are songs that all the songs in the album, which are mostly the songs from the show. There are a couple of songs in the show that aren't on the album and vice versa. But all of them are songs that they're like journal entries to me. They all have like a story that goes with them or a reason why they are. They're not just like, because I like to sing it.
And that's the theatrical part. Yeah. Right. That's the part I think that resonates is you feel that within listening to it without even having seen it. You know? Why did you settle on the title If the Stars Were Mine?
So that's a song. Moises Kaufman, the director, he's a good friend. He officiated my wedding. He asked me to arrange all the music for his wedding. I found that song and I was like, this is the song that you should walk down the aisle to. And he was like, yes. So I sang them down the aisle singing that song. And it was before I became a dad. And when I became a dad, the first time I was like, oh, I'm going to sing to my son, I hadn't really thought about lullabies to sing to him or planned any. And I was like, if the stars were mine, I'd give them all to you. And I sang it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most perfect lullaby. Yeah. And it's not an old song. It was recently written by Melody Gardot. It's like from the last 20 years, but it sounds like an old song. Yeah. So I started singing it to him every day and I've been singing it to him every day of most of his life. Wow. And so that was like the first song I chose for the show and for the album that I was like, wow, that's beautiful. This is the song for my son.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
If the stars were mine, I'd give them all to you. I'd pluck them down right from the sky and leave it only blue. I would never let the sun forget to shine upon your face. So when others would have rain clouds, you'd have only sunny days. If the stars were mine, I'd tell you what put those stars right in a jar and give them all to you. I teach the birds such lovely words and make them sing for you.
I also want to ask you about Hey Kid. I didn't know the song.
Yeah.
And I heard it and I was like, talk about a story. I mean, that's so beautiful. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is a Tom Kitt piece from
If Then.
Tom Kitt and Yorkie from If Then. Talk to me about deciding on that one.
So I auditioned for that show. For that role and sang that song, and they were like, you are too young to play Idina Menzel's husband. And I was like, yes I am,
Sure.
But I'm gonna come. I tried it anyway. I was in kind of like the last rounds of it, but I kept that song, and it was long before I became a dad, but I kept the song. I was like, that song is just so special and so interesting. And I slightly changed the lyrics when I do it to make it about being a gay dad, sort of.
Sure.
Just in the end, like, it doesn't agree with itself, because in one part I say my pregnant wife, and then later I say your dad and you and me. But I kept that song. I was like, I have to sing that song when I'm a dad someday.
Yeah.
And people all the time are like, I saw If Then, I do not remember this song, because it just wasn't really like a focus of it, or whatever happened, that it wasn't really, I think that telling my story and about how difficult it was to become a dad as a gay man through surrogacy, it was very difficult. It took a long time, and things. And then hearing it kind of has a different weight when you add somebody's like personal life to it. And even Tom Kitt, I worked with Tom Kitt on the Indigo Girls musical that for the last few years, and he had been working on it. And I was like, oh, I sing this song in my show. And he's like, that song? Like, nobody's really singing that song. I was like, well, they should, because it's amazing.
Yeah.
But people always come up to me after my show and are like, what is that song?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't know it. I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, this is stunning.
Hey kid, we're both excited just to know you'll soon be here. Say kid, we're both delighted, though that may not seem so clear. But I did my OB rotation, so I know the ins and outs. And you're an act of God's creation, so I'm fine with all the doubts. I'm a doctor and a soldier, I've been shelled and under fire. But kid, if I say that you don't scare me, I'm a liar.
Did you intentionally handpick some of those Sondheim picks, like, something's coming, and did you say like, I need to have a Sondheim in here, I need to have, how did that come about?
I think it was more like, I can't have all Sondheim, so what else am I going to sing? That's sort of more what it was. Because it, like, there's so many Sondheim songs that mean so much to me, and like, I could just do an all Sondheim thing. Of course. Maybe I will, but like, that's those songs, the songs that are on there, all, like Moments in the Woods, because Joanna Gleason, and like Falling in Love, and that song to me is about, like, again, as a little gay kid, I was like, that's a song about knowing you're gay and like having your first kiss.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I did read that from it, and it's so funny because the song itself, it's like in context and out of context simultaneously.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful rendition too.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. I was like, I want a guitar. I want it to be like folk led, and they were like, okay.
Yeah, it just sounds super forward.
Yeah. And then Something's Coming, because it was like my first professional job, and also because my brother, taking voice lessons when I was little, that was like one of the first songs, and he would sing it over and over and over again, and I hated it because I was so tired of him. And then I got to be Tony in West Side Story. I was like, oh, this song is incredible. That like feeling of something is on the horizon, that like magical feeling,
Right.
And then Finishing the Hat, because I've played George many times, and it's like
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Was that him? Yes, it was. Was that me? No, it wasn't. Just a trick of the woods. Just a moment, one peculiar passing moment. Must it all be either less or more, either plain or grand? Is it always, or is it never? And that's what woods are for those moments in the woods.
Well, I want to ask you, this will be a perfect little segue into the fact that, like I said, you have this through line of Sondheim to have done like I think everybody's done Into the Woods. Like most people have done Into the Woods, right? I don't think I've done any other Sondheim show but Into the Woods yet. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
But you have Sunday repeatedly on there. Okay, cool, right? Maybe a semi-popular. Then we talked Roadshow, but you also have Passion on there. Do I Hear a Waltz?
Yeah.
Like it's straight. It's almost bizarre.
It almost, I mean, even things like that Allegro was a show that he worked on, you know, there are so many weird things like that. And West Side Story being my first job ever. And then I did Sondheim on Sondheim at the Hollywood Bowl.
Right.
And like I think I've done so much of it, partially because I became known for it because of Roadshow, that it was like, yeah, the Sondheim guy. Yeah. But then also back when Steve was alive, Steve had casting rights and approval rights on his shows. And I think that he liked me and that it was like, I would get approval.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering just specifically with Do I Hear a Waltz, because that's the one show that Sondheim has very openly said that he regrets writing.
But it's a weird one. It's a real weird one.
Yeah. But it's so interesting because it's a piece of history. In it's him and Richard Rodgers. And so I was just wondering if you could talk about that experience and the knowledge and information that you received from him having worked on it.
Well, you know, it was an encore show.
Right.
So it was like we had 10 rehearsals to put it together.
Yeah.
So Steve was not around. Like we were just struggling to get it on stage, you know?
Yeah.
Especially because there were like big dance sequences. It was a big cast of people.
Yeah.
So it was complicated to put together. And in that encore's way where they're like, we're just taking what we have and putting it up on stage and making the first, you know, like making the first call that we can, making the first like choice you can make and just going with it.
Right.
You know, so I think in talking to him about it, it was like, you know, it also was not a show that like some encores show they're doing to like transfer to Broadway. Of course. This was not one. This was just like, here's this piece. And I think he was very much like, I hated writing this.
Yeah.
His experience with Rodgers was like very negative, and they were writing two different musicals, it seemed like. And and like it's like Steve was trying to write Company and Rodgers was trying to write Oklahoma, you know. It was and so you feel that conflict in some of the stuff, and like there's some dark things in it that you're like, what? Wait,
where did that come from?
Yeah. Like the song We're Gonna Be All Right, which was one of the songs I sang, that's like really messed. It's got some darkness about it.
Right.
So yeah, it was like, I don't think there was any, like, I don't think he was like thinking about how they were going to fix it or anything.
Sure.
Like, yeah, this one doesn't work. He came to see Allegro in class, and it was a classic stage in this little theater, you know, so you can see the audience the whole time. And he sat there with his like arms folded, legs crossed. He was miserable. He hated it. You know, and they cut it down, like we cut it down to a one act, and so it was much shorter, but you could just see him sitting there like hating the experience. And he said he's like, I'll never like it. Like I hated it, you know, like it never worked out and I didn't like it and I'm never going to like it. So
funny.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you've had the privilege of being able to be close with him on a different front because you're close with his husband.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what that kind of, you know, especially now that he's gone, and also you were in Company, you know, while he had passed, which is, you know, I've heard is like an incredibly was a bonding moment, and also this like, I don't know, just like spiritual strange awning or something over it. But my point with what I was getting at was he feels like this. I've never had the chance of meeting him or being in the same room with him because I think I didn't like fall in love with his work until after he had passed with the same verve. Yeah. But what's interesting is he feels like someone already who was not human. I think he felt like that when he was alive too, to many people, where people, I mean, that was the whole thing, like Sondheim was a god thing, but like, it just feels like him and Hal Prince and Rodgers and Hammerstein, like they feel like these people that it can't be that I was on the planet at the same time he was on the planet. You know what I mean?
Yes. And you know what? Again, like being a little gay kid growing up in Utah, Broadway and like Broadway stars and Stephen Sondheim seemed like the furthest thing from reality to me.
Yeah.
And like being in a room with him, working with him at the beginning of my career like that was just insane to me.
Right.
That he was exactly what they were like, you're a real person who drinks coffee and is like sitting over there.
Right.
You know? And I don't think like, it's funny because I don't think we were like friends, because how are you friends with, like, I could never act fully normal around him, but he was always like, he knew that he had given me my career, you know, and therefore looked out for me. He used to send me telegrams sometimes on opening nights. Like they always said, sing out Louise. And like, he wrote me letters every once in a while when I like to say thank you, like for his birthday, when I sang at his birthday, like wrote me a letter to say thank you.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, my husband and I would go over to their house and visit them. I got to be really good friends with his husband, and his husband and I used to go running all the time and all this stuff. And we would go over to their house during the pandemic. And like, it was like the week before he died, we were at their house upstate or in Connecticut. And so, you know, and he was very old. It was not a surprise.
Sure.
It was sudden, but it wasn't a surprise that it happened because he was very old, and, you know, but it was like a shocking, sad thing for me personally, and to be with the cast and then to do his show the day he died, like that night, hear someone singing Being Alive, you know, and doing a show. Like it's like my life has been interwoven with so much Stephen Sondheim.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's personal, you know, like it's not like it's, and it's very, I feel very lucky that that's the way it ended up.
Yeah.
If I could have chosen it, it would have been the way it ended up.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
You know, like
of
that's
course.
what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Is his work. Like I was greatly inspired by it.
Yeah.
And then to have gotten to know him and work with him and stuff was incredible. And it is nuts to me how intertwined his work has been into my life, and hopefully how it continues to be. You know, like when I think of dream roles, I think of all the shows I've wanted to, you know. I was doing Sweeney Todd when I got cast in Roadshow. It was like ensemble member number 5.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, like I hope that that's what I get to continue to do.
For sure.
Because it's the work that I'm most inspired by. And then on a personal level, I didn't get to like know him like people who knew him when he was young.
Yeah.
But like we got to go to party. I watched the Super Bowl at his house.
Oh my God.
The weirdest thing to do at Stephen Sondheim's house.
Who was the halftime show?
Yeah. I don't remember.
When
was it? Oh, I should look back and see.
That's funny.
What year it was. But yeah, I mean, you know, like I feel very lucky that I got to be anywhere in his orbit. I didn't, you know, like get to originate a role in a show that was then a huge financial success or anything like that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I just feel very lucky that I got to do it all.
And the thing too that I've learned about him from stories from people who've come on here, or you know, or just from around, was that he was so around. And that's the thing that's amazing to me, is that he took up this mantle of like seeing theater all the time and encouraging and writing those letters and thanking people, and on top of it, you know, there are people who are geniuses who maybe aren't the best people, and their work exists and kind of stands true, and that's the whole idea of separating the art from the person. But the thing about him is that for the most part, at least, those two things were both beautiful. You know what I mean?
He was incredibly gracious. Like, you know, he wasn't a people pleaser and like super nice. And like, I think that he, you know, like he was grumpy and gruff sometimes, I think. You know, I don't think I saw it. I think that people who worked with him maybe in his like 40, 50s, 60s.
That like, 70s era.
Yeah. You know, like when he was more tough, like I think people saw that. But the way he was really does speak for itself, in that like he responded to everyone.
Insane.
Crazy. And wrote physical letters. If you imagine honestly, just the personal expense of the stationery and the stamps, like he just felt like that was really important and did it. And like that he would take the time to send me a telegram, who like, again, like I didn't make him a lot of money or anything.
Right.
But just that he like looked out for people and, you know, like he always knew what shows people were doing. And so it's amazing. Yeah. I wish there were more people like that. I hope to be more like that, you know.
100%. And you know, if you watch that final Stephen Colbert interview, for what it's worth, as old as he was and whatnot, he's still really sharp.
Oh my gosh.
Really excited by the work and life, and I don't know, you know. And for me personally, I really feel that through Here We Are. I love that piece. Yeah.
Loved it. I saw it 4 times.
I saw it
thought
3
it was
times.
so stunning.
Yeah.
That's a dream role.
Yeah.
Being
Yes.
anything in that
Yes,
show.
I know. I know.
I would watch it again right now.
Me too.
I love it so much.
Me too. It was everything to all. You know, that you saw it with us. I think the second time
When she eats that rose and she's like, it looks so beautiful and it tastes awful. I'm like,
I know.
Oh my
also,
God.
like Steve Pasquale doing the Marianne.
Yeah.
You are so. I love that, the soldier moment. Everything. I can go on and on about that show. I really love that
soldier
piece.
moment.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And also,
gosh.
for what it's worth, David Ives' brilliant
David-
book, and Joe Mantello's direction was like pristine.
Stunning.
It was
the perfect group of people to make it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask you, what is the thing that you hope that people walk away taking from this show and seeing it and the album, you know, and this like amalgamation of what the story that you're trying to tell here? What do you hope is the thing that people take away from it?
You know, when you're an actor and you are so used to being the paint on someone else's canvas, making something on your own is really scary.
Yeah.
And like making something that people might not like, you know? And like when I put together this album, I had many moments where I was like, who's going to listen to an album that has Finishing the Hat and I Want to Dance with Somebody on it? You know, like this is really a
lot
weird
of people,
collection of things.
Well, a lot of people.
But I was like, what a weird thing to. Well, and I had lots of people who were like, what are you doing? You know, what are the songs you're choosing for it? Like, how do they all tie together? And I'm like, I don't know. They make sense to me.
Yeah.
In my head, they make sense.
Right.
And it makes sense as a cohesive journey. And I feel like it's like hanging out with me for an hour. Like that album. It's like, you know, and I think that there are weird things on it that the people who love parts of it will hate other parts of it because it's not just like, because it's an album of jazz music, you know, like it's not, it's a whole bunch of different things. And so it's scary. It was really scary to put it out. I have to tell you, like 2 days before it came out, I was like, wait, can we push the stop button? Maybe we shouldn't do it. Because I was like, what if people hate it or make fun of it? Or, you know, there's that feeling that is, but that I hope that from the album, and I hope this is like, I really wear my heart on my sleeve. And I try to be vulnerable in all things and really myself.
Right.
And I think that sometimes that benefits me and sometimes it doesn't, you know?
Right.
But either way, I know that I will feel really good at the other side of it, knowing that I was true to myself. Yeah. And so even in the making of the album, that it was like, yes, I'm going to do all these weird things. Yeah. Maybe they don't make sense, but I'm going to give it a try. Yeah.
But better that than create something that you think people will like, because I've realized more and more that as much as I would love to make something that people really like, that's just going to unfortunately have to be the byproduct of the thing that I'm trying to communicate.
Yes. You know? And I know that's who I try to be as an actor too. And what I've learned the most is those things that maybe you think are your weaknesses are actually the things that are going to be your most valuable things, your most valuable assets, you know? Yeah. And that if you are like in an audition going in, not like, okay, what do they want to see? Or how can I make them want me? Yeah. But that you just are going in being who you are and doing the things that you can do. And if that's what they're looking for, it's what they're looking for. And if it's not, then it's not. And being okay with that is a really hard thing. And sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not, but I'm trying to be, you know? Yeah. And so, like, and who I am on like social media, that I'm very open about being a gay dad and show my life as being a gay dad. It's not all just like glamour and like red carpets. I'm like, no, sometimes I'm like helping my son with his math homework. You know, is like who I try to be. And so I hope that if you come see me in a show, if you listen to this album, that you get a sense of who I actually really am. Yeah. Not any sort of character that I've played or a public persona of who I'm trying to show that I am. Yeah. But that it's like, this is really what I am like. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. We started the podcast by asking you who was your I want to be like you as a kid, and we want to conclude the podcast by asking you who is your I want to be like you now.
Stephen Pasquale. I mean, who doesn't want that voice?
That's true. That's true. And it's
sorry.
funny because we just talked about this exact thing. It's like you were talking about the things you want, so it almost feels silly to ask you this.
Yeah. No. But it's true that but honestly, being a fan, I think there is another part of being an actor that if you start to turn against the people who you're like, or that you're like competing against, like thinking of it as competition with people, it gets a very tricky situation for you. Like I don't know that there's a lot of happiness there. It's just, it's the same problem as anybody in any business of comparing yourself to why don't you have that career. It's like, ooh, that's very sticky. That's a very sticky place to be. That said, I think what we are lacking a lot is like, I'm a huge fan of a lot of people who are like me, but also people who aren't like me. Like, gosh. And I love being a fan of the theater and a fan, like I'm going to see 1776 at Paper Mill Playhouse this weekend. Cause I'm like, I've got to go see Will Blum, who I think is a genius.
Yeah.
And like I'm a big fan of it. And so there are lots of people who I'm like, I want to be like that. There are lots of careers that I'm like, that I look up to in a non-competitive way, that I'm like, oh yeah, Stephen Sondheim, I'm like, how do I take those amazing things I learned about what he was as a person and take some of them into my own life, Right. Things like that.
Right.
So yeah, there are lots of people
I love that.
I'm a big fan
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think that that's something that I've discovered with this podcast, and literally calling it I want to be like you, is that I get to speak to the people that I want to be like, which is amazing, and learn a little bit about what makes them and like what makes them core, like artists and people and their mantras and same thing with you. Like I've so appreciated this, and You're lovely, and I can't wait to see your show.
Thanks. I'm so
and
excited
go see a show at 54 Below and all over, and hopefully coming back to 54 Below.
Yeah.
So yeah, Claybourne Elder, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I Want to Be Like You with Elbi Cespedes is produced by Elbi and Angelina Cespedes. Special thanks to Ina Cespedes, Vincenzo Salvatore Cakes, Christian Cespedes, Dan Fortune, and of course, Claybourne Elder.